Alright, hey guys, this time, this video is going to be about something quite personal for once, and not necessarily about video games. The only game reference is possibly this story that I might cover, but I felt that it was about real important and necessary that I bring up something really personal. You see, when people grow up, there's a lot of things about themselves that they're just now trying to learn about. And, sometimes, it's stuff that you can easily open up about. And at other times, however, it's about things that you're too afraid to announce to the world for various reasons. And the topic I'm about to explain in this particular video is going to cover something quite personal that none of you, my viewers on YouTube or on Facebook, because I'm going to be posting it on both of these things, probably would have known about if they hadn't grown up close to me. And that is the fact that I actually identify myself as seeing myself as a trans male. Now, I know a lot of people are very hating toward this, and I'm not expecting a lot. So, when you click on this video to watch this, if you do not think that this is a hate speech, a rant, or something of expectations to force people to go against their will, like I'm threatening to hurt them to do things that I expect, because that is not at all what this is meant to be for. This is just to get my point across and my voice heard, because after so many years of actually hiding myself for who I actually want to be versus what I don't want to be, I've learned that it's time for that to stop and actually take some action. I'm kind of tired of having to hide my inner self from people because society has been so corrupted into teaching people to not be themselves, but yet they're raised as children to be who they want to be. That is so messed up on so many levels, and I'm tired of seeing people suffering from this. You see, growing up, I wasn't really sure about genders or gender stereotypes or any of those things at all. Like, that just never came to my mind. That wasn't something I actually thought about very often. And as they say in research, it does take a trans person quite some time to realize what their gender identity is. Now, let me explain that gender identity is completely different than that of the chronological sex. The chronological sex is indeed the gender that society will say that you have at birth. But gender identity is not the same thing. Gender identity, as my friend has helped teach me, is actually the gender you identify with, meaning that is what you see yourself as mentally. Not the same thing as the physical gender that you physically have, but that's not to say that you're not the gender you see yourself as at all. And what I'm trying to explain here is a lot of people in the world are going to try to tell you that you're not the things you want to be, but you should not let that stop you from actually staying determined and hopeful that that's what you want to be. The world should not stop you from being who you want to be. That is the point that I'm trying to get across. This is so important on so many levels. If you let the world tell you how to live your life, then you're not going to have a very happy lifestyle because you're letting other people tell you what to do. Yes, it's important that as you're a child growing up that you have to listen to your mentors, but when you reach an age where you're finally able to make decisions on your own, that's when you need to decide for yourself what you want, because that's the time where it's required that you make your own decisions. Don't let people make you hate yourself for being who you are, because that's not going to lead you in a really happy lifestyle, and I just don't want that for the rest of these people that are watching this, because it's highly important. Like, I thought by opening up about being trans male that would make things so much easier for me, and I wasn't really expecting the invitation I ended up getting. But that's not to say that I love these people any less, because to show respect to them, I'm not saying names. I don't hate them for not respecting that just because of the fact that it's different, it's unusual, it's not something you see every day, and it's not comfortable to them, and I'm aware of this. But at the same time, though, unfortunately, I'm not changing my mind. Just like my trans biological father, we set our minds really high and strong on what we believe in. And I'm not going to stop believing in what I feel about myself because it's important to me, just as it's important to them to not necessarily want to understand this kind of thing because it's just too different for them. I respect that. I respect everyone's opinions equally, but I don't feel like I have to change my mind on something this important to me. Because just like my artwork, this is a serious thing to me. I know a lot of people think that we're just attention grabbers, attention, and apologies for this word, but attention whore like people, but that's not the case. You should not feel like you should hate yourself because of that. Like, we're not out to grab attention. We're not holding guns up to people. We're not just saying, hey, respect our authority in the most negative way. We just prefer to be labeled correctly, and that's about it. Yes, it's strange to people that haven't been around it enough to know what it is, and I get that. But, maybe if they tried a bit hard, they could learn these things. Give it a chance, and maybe you might learn something from this. We might all learn something from this. And like I mentioned, the story that I wrote, this story right here, the Chrono Cross 2 story, which is actually based off of my favorite sequel to Chrono Trigger. At one point, when I was writing it, I got real nervous because I did not want people to read it. And at the time, I was chased and bothered by some people who wanted to read it. And the thing was, I will admit I was insecure. I didn't want people to read it because, like I mentioned in the beginning, in this story, it was the first time I actually wrote myself as being a female at first, but it was one of those female to male trans stories, and I was so afraid that if the wrong people read this story that I would get so much hatred back then when I wrote this, because I was like a young teenager when I wrote this, that I would be disowned right off the bat if they had known at that time that I actually saw myself as a guy, because, at that time I hadn't even told anybody this information yet. And I was not about to let the wrong people see it because, those that are, strong in religion usually are the ones that will try to get at you. And I'm not saying go against elders, go against adults, or just go against people in general, but if this is something that makes you happy, why would you want to live a life that's going to hurt you when you can just live the life the way you want to be? But yeah, that's the biggest reason I didn't want anyone to read this, because I was like, if someone read that, I would be dead. I would be buried alive, literally. And no, not the one from the Pokemon creepypasta, but you know where I'm going with this. Heck, my t-shirt even says the quote, can't even think straight, which pretty much, represents a lot when you really pay attention to it. And I'm sure at some point, other fellow trans people, trans male and trans female, at some point in time, has drawn OC characters of themselves, which are supposed to be, original characters or personifications of themselves in various universes. And I've done that for years now. Like, for example, this right here is my new sauna that I had made for the Chrono Trigger video game, because I honestly, I like doing that. It's fun to draw myself as guy characters because that's something I'm more used to doing and more comfortable with. Now, to explain further why I actually feel more, male is because, if you kind of read into the zodiac, it does technically say that Gemini are masculine, for one thing, but that's not the only reason why. Growing up, I had a lot of interesting friends that were just different in general, and they were weird and strange in a good way. And when I was, interacting with these people, I was mainly able to get along with, my bros, my boys that I like to hang out, instead of females. Because most of the females I grew up around in the school setting were just snobby, nitpicky, rude as F type people, and I just could not deal with that. It's just, you're making other females look bad with this bad behavior. Why the heck do you gotta act like that? Seriously, tone it down a bit, eat some Snickers, and calm the heck down. I just don't like people that act like that. I mean, for real. So it's like, after being exposed to so many females that were like that compared to myself, I started really thinking about it. Like, I'm not going to deny the fact that my mother has said, yes, I have played with Barbies before growing up. But, playing with Barbies does not really necessarily define what your gender identity is. A guy could play with a Barbie in a sexual way for all you know. Heck, they made a guy Barbie doll after all anyway. I mean, seriously, that's not really a valid thing to use as a expression of, yeah, that makes you a female. No, not really. Furthermore, to go into deeper detail, I mean, like, seriously, I actually like the kitty cat toys that came with the Barbies more than I did the freaking Barbies. Like, I mean, yeah, some might argue who know me in real life, but don't you have that one Barbie movie? And I'm gonna be like, you hold up right there, you son of a gun. For your information, I only have this Barbie movie because of the Serafina and the Wolfie cat. Because their love story's better than Twilight and freaking Barbie and the Pauper freaking counterfeit butt face. Because she played the role of both characters, and I just hate that. And I honestly, apologies, had to tell a dog to be quiet. Oscar, no, don't. But basically, I want to explain further that, yes, playing with Barbies or having body parts does not actually define one's gender. That is something that society will try to throw at you multiple times. And what I'm here to tell you is, don't let that define you, okay? Seriously. Society does not have a right to tell you who or what to be. Only you do. Remember, you're the one who writes your own storybook. Never let anyone try to write it for you. You are the only one that is allowed to do that, and the only person that can actually judge or even proofread that story at all whatsoever is God. Nobody else has any entitlement whatsoever to tell you what to do. And like I said, don't disobey people. You are supposed to obey the law, but don't let people tell you you can't be what you want to be if it's what makes you happy, is basically what I'm trying to get out at. Because honestly, I'm tired of suffering that same kind of thing. Because sometimes I feel like I'm not even accepted in certain areas. I feel like I'm not good enough. Sometimes I even hate on myself just because I opened up about being something that people don't understand. And honestly, I shouldn't have to hide myself from the rest of the world because everyone else is bent on basically dissing people for being this way. That's not right. Okay? Like, trans, gays, and lesbians. Okay? On the topic of trans and gays, I actually had a gay person and lesbian person who worked in the same gas station I did. And they're like the nicest people you'll ever meet. But yet they get the most hate out of for no reason. And it's like, if I can be friends with these people and actually let them into my freaking world, let them breathe the same air as me, how come nobody else can do that? It's like, it's not that hard. It's not hard to give people a chance to get to know them, learn something, you know? I mean, if learning something is such a crime, then I guess school should have been banned years ago. I mean, good God. It's like, really. Jokes aside, there's no reason for that. This is just a real talk kind of thing that I want to get across. Like, seriously, just be yourself, have fun doing it, don't let nobody stop you, and just enjoy life the way it was intended. Being yourself. I mean, seriously. I see nothing wrong with it. I say, to go for this. Go for it like it's your life dream. Just achieve it, Don't hold back either. Do not ever hold back on your goals. The more, enthusiasm, the more determination, and, just effort you put into these things, the more you'll get in life. The further you'll, go. You'll reach places you never thought you ever could. And that's what I want you to do, as the viewers of this video. I want y'all to take what I'm saying to heart and actually apply it in everyday life and actually go places that you never thought you could by having this determination. for things like this. Because it's about darn time that, these people, the trans, gays, lesbians, and all those people, and the cross-dressers too, who were actually a part of this, to actually start standing up for themselves and actually putting their voice out. It's kind of sad, to have to witness people like this every day who are having reports in the news getting killed for being themselves, or just not saying anything at all because they're afraid that they're going to be hated for that. There is no reason why they should be taught to be themselves if they can't be themselves. What hypocrisy is this? This is madness. That is where the real war comes from. People not opening up to diversity when God actually created the world to be diverse as a test on purpose for us to get along. There is a reason for this. There's a reason for everything, and yet people choose to be negative on purpose. What are they actually learning here? To be the same all these years? Because all I'm saying is the same repetitive nonsense that's not worth anyone's time, and they're just wasting their own time and our time along with it. And it's stupid. Stupid. It's really stupid. I mean, honestly. I mean, in further details, I'm actually real excited about this conversation, this topic, because I actually talked to my trans father for quite many hours, for a long time, actually, because I called him at one point, and thanks to him, thanks to her, I should say, who they, call themselves as Nikki Winters, thanks to this beautiful, passionate soul over there, who hasn't been in my life at all, for that matter, has given me the strength and determination to even make this video to help other people get through this kind of situation. Thanks to them, they led me in the direction that I didn't think I'd ever be able to accomplish myself, because even though I have opened up to being a trans male because I see myself this way, I've never actually came this far with it before. And I want to say thanks to them for actually giving me that courage, giving me that support that no other person could really give me, because of the fact that it's not very understandable as to why I see myself the way I do. I mean, there is more to this than just what meets the eye. Like, that call that I made me realize how much more in common I had with my biological parent who hasn't been in my life for years than I realized. Like, we literally have the same mentality all the way through, and I'm like really shocked how similar we are. They really are the role model that I thought they would be, and I have a great feeling deep down that one day we're gonna have the most greatest adventure ever, and I'm so looking forward to it. And I